If you primarily studied the culture of your ancestors in elementary school, take a step forward.
If your ancestors were forced to come to the United States, not by choice, take a step backwards.
So this is what they call a privilege line, and they ask a series of questions about how you may be privileged in life. And if you can see towards the front, it's mostly white male. In the back, it's mostly black women.
If you do not have to think about race and racism every day, take a step forward.
Any town, where we found our common ground.
This is Anytown Leadership Camp. Atop a mountain in Arizona, detached from the distractions of the world, there's no horseback riding, creek swimming, or lake fishing. These young folks are here to lean into conversations most people try to stay away from. Conversations around race, diversity, and privilege.
Has heard of prejudice or has an idea of what prejudice is?
Anytown Camp. What exactly is this thing?
So sometimes described as like a human relations camp, a leadership camp. We're talking about kind of all the isms. So we'll focus on racism, sexism, ableism, but then we're also focusing on like, how do you have a productive conversation?
Anytown has been stirring young minds in Arizona since the 50s. It was started by the National Coalition of Christians and Jews, an organization wanting to rid the world of bigotry. Now, there are dozens of Anytowns across America, but they all operate independently.
Hey girl, do your thing and switch.
Here in Arizona, campers pay up to $500 to spend the week talking about these controversial issues.
How many of you have ever been in a situation where you were with someone saying something like racist, homophobic, just something hateful, and you were like frozen in that moment and had no idea what to do?
Matt Case is an Arizona public school teacher and one of the camp's 3 directors, but he first came to Anytown as a camper at 17.
When I first started, like in the 90s, I think we had a very, like almost a little bit of a colorblind approach. And so what's changed there is like, we're gonna take a look at white privilege. We're gonna take a look at like how that plays out through different identities, right?
That phrase, tip of the iceberg, there's identity that people see, but then there's identity that's deeper.
Why are you here at Anytown Camp?
I think at first I just signed up because I thought it was gonna be like leadership, and with that, like I wanna go into business, so I thought that'd be good for me.
Actually, my Spanish teacher told me it was like this leadership camp and I could come here to get 50 service hours, which was like my main reason to come.
Oh, so you came here for the service hours?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here mostly because of my mother who had signed me up for this camp, and I accepted that decision, and now I'm here.
My mom. And she told me, but like a couple of nights before, and I didn't want to come, but she packed my bag for me, so.
Like most camps, you got workshops, games, and activities, but these activities are designed to have campers engage some of America's most sensitive topics. There's dialogue instead of debate.
When your actions are hurting or negatively affecting someone else, is that when you should be canceled? Is that what you're saying?
There's some role play.
I mean, it's just a compliment. Like, I want your skin color. Like, it's beautiful.
And there's a lot of listening.
A large part of this Anytown Camp is making space for individuals and groups to be heard. And right now they're getting prepared for what they call a fishbowl, where groups will sit here in the middle, have a conversation, while people on the outside just shut up and listen.
Today we're gonna be practicing deep listening.
What does it mean to be Black?
It's a part of us, but it's not all we are.
We're expected to be strong and able to handle everything, but being a Black person, I don't necessarily feel like I always have the right to be more sensitive.
It's like an unspoken understanding that we all have. But as someone who grew up hearing constantly that I wasn't Black enough, it does make me think, well, what am I supposed to be?
The fishbowl is like being under the real-time anthropological gaze of other folks. They're a fly on the wall in the living room, barbershop, and beauty salon. And when it's not objectifying, it can work.
Thank you for participating.
Midweek, campers break into small groups based on shared experiences like race or sexual orientation, and they talk about what ties them together. Later in the evening, there's culture night. It's like identity show and tell, where you present your culture to the camp through skits, discussion, and audience interaction.
So the things that bind us together in the LionX community are our celebrations, dance, and music.
Chinese language is very tonal. For example, bang huai kong.
That's who farted in Vietnamese.
Where are you from?
Oh, from Arizona.
No, but like, what part of China are you from?
Well, I'm not Chinese. I'm half Hispanic, half Vietnamese.
Oh.
Not a big fan of Thanksgiving. What you were taught for Thanksgiving is an absolute lie. It was a massacre.
So the first thing we noticed is that none of us really felt immediately connected to each other.
Another thing that we could agree on as a group is that white privilege is very dominant in our culture.
Another thing we wanted to take into consideration was taking accountability and just by making space for those that we have affected.
Throughout the week, the energy would violate between a kumbaya atmosphere of smiles, hugs, and giggles, and uncomfortable conversations that created some tense moments.
Content warning. There will be some derogatory language, as well as violence.
Tonight, we've watched a bunch of skits about prejudice and how it's like a domino effect, how it starts with preconditioning and eventually leads to genocide.
Anytown staff asked us not to film these skits, but what we saw was kind of heavy. Counselors acted out some racist scenarios, some of which were loosely based on real experience.
This is real life for these folks that you know personally now.
We are crying because we just experienced this for the first time.
You have a right as a human being to not be okay with the way Black people are treated.
It gets me angry. It gives me all these emotions that I hate feeling.
I'm not gonna sit here and put my life on display in order to educate you.
Other unaffiliated Anytowns have been accused of the skits being a bit too immersive. Here in Arizona, it got emotional, but most people seem to think what they saw was worth a conversation. I'd imagine, there's some folks that would look at what you're doing and say, man, they taking them kids up there at the top of that mountain and they indoctrinating them. All of that conversation around race and all of this is divisive.
These conversations don't divide, they actually unite because you get through the BS.
In high school, have you had any kind of conversations close to what you've experienced here at camp?
Never. I've talked about race, but not to this level, not in the way that everyone is checked for the privileges that they have and don't.
I'm learning things here as a 19-year-old that I should have knew already.
In all 18 years of my life, I have not heard almost everything I've heard at this camp.
It's been an emotional ride. It's been really eye-opening, and I'm grateful for it.
I feel that in some way it is, in a way, trying to inflict some shame with how its programs are. I don't think it's intentional. I wouldn't say that that's at all what they're trying to do, but with some of the programs here, it can appear that way.
Y'all going too fast to sit speaking at 15.
Do you really believe this place is making a difference?
Yeah, we're chiseling away at these things. We might not see a demand, but we're leaving it better for the people that come after us.